Welcome to our first edition of Grab a Coffee podcast for the month of September 2025. My name is Simon Kasiate. Welcome to the program. Raymond.
Yes, my name is Mujini. Raymond Mujini. I got it right.
Now you got it right.
And of course, this episode is proudly sponsored by MultiChoice and their Showmax episode Show Now, which you can get for 11,400 using your Momo, and you'll have access to all their entertainment, including the FIFA Club World Cup.
Or simply catching up with some Kampala cream. Showmax is where all your favorite entertainment is. You are smelling fresh off with jet fuel. Welcome back from the land of so many hills, but certainly not better than Uganda.
That's a matter of contest. That's a really huge matter of contest, as you know, the Queen of Sheba story. No, but yes, I got back from Addis very late early this morning. Mm-hmm. So it's just a few hours.
And you may wish to share with us some of a few encounters, except no talk about coffee and the Grand Renaissance Dam.
So I think, I was amused by Addis. There are things that shouldn't amuse us, but I was really amused. They've done this whole reclaiming of public spaces. Mm-hmm. So everywhere there's a road, everywhere there's a walkway and a paver, they've reclaimed that space. And the Addis government. Mm-hmm. And they've made fantastic walkways within Addis. They've turned the same way we have like the Northern Bypass mm-hmm. and the bridges under it. Mm-hmm. They've turned some of those bridges into public parks mm-hmm. for people to sit. But they've also created running tracks inside Addis. So it's a very beautiful city when you see it right now. What they've also done is they've banned commercial advertising banners. So you can only do LED screens.
Wow.
As a result, the city looks very neat when you go there.
Going to Addis at such a time, coming from the spectacle you saw around Kololo on up Kololo Terrace just last week.
It was a pain. It was a massive pain. It was a really massive pain.
What do you think bedevils us from the inability to imagine the need for the greater public good in as far as infrastructure development is concerned?
I think
like, why can't our city planners, I don't even know why I'm asking, I should be very guilty of this, having worked at KCCA, but I know something you don't know, but let me just ask as a devil's advocate. What would stop us from building roads that allow for that kind of multi-use, that cyclists have their lanes, walkers, pedestrians, runners have their space, and then the motorists also have their space.
But I mean, it's a reform project. So I would also add some context to it in the sense that, Addis had Mele Zenawi over a long period of time, and Abiy came in as a reformer, a massive reformer. In his first years of reform, of course, he opened Addis up. He opened the economy up. He opened pockets of resistance up. He led the country into civil war as a result.
Absolutely.
But now that the country has recovered from civil war, you can see that the reforms have been worth it. In the long run, the reforms have really been worth it. It's also that, a lot of Chinese money has gone down into Addis.
All that you're describing, Raymond,
yes,
are statements I've had from our leadership here. Reforms, Chinese money, social, economic transformation. But when you see on the ground, we look like what? Damascus, 1980 or something like that?
But I think that's also the thing that, for me, the reason why Addis is a good example for Ugandans to copy from is they're landlocked like us. They have hostile neighbors, like we do have some hostile neighbors. And like us, they have to go through countries to get to the sea. So they have to go through sometimes
Are we
through
short
Somalia.
of places to copy from? Just the other day, I returned from our neighbor to the southwest.
Yeah.
And just a bus stop in Kigali gives you dignity as someone commuting.
Yeah.
That you can have a shed, there is some LED advertisement if you need to, there are charging ports, and it's just authentically nice. As opposed to these tin and aluminium cattle sheds that for the most part populate what we call our bus stands where they are.
Yeah. One of the things that makes cities really work is that political leaders of political parties realize that the city is your legacy. It's the first port of call for people coming into your country. So the RPF, by extension EPDRF in Ethiopia, they've done a great job at saying, look here, what's our legacy? But also they've undergone massive transitions. I think the question to ask the NRM, which we asked in the last podcast, was, what do you guys imagine when you come to Kampala? Like, is this a legacy you want to leave behind? Is this the city you want to be remembered for? And of course, there are some teething problems. You land at Entebbe and very quickly it becomes clear, one, some of the lights are flickering on or off. We've done well with the expressway. We're not doing well with maintaining it. So there's dirt on the curbs of the road. Some of those problems are managerial problems that should be solved organizationally, not just by one person.
Because again, like I've repeatedly said on this space and other places, there are no prohibitively restrictive sanctions for messing up and not doing one's job. But talking about which, you talk about city leadership and government. Here we are in the thick of the silly season.
Before we go to city leadership and government, I want to tell you a very interesting story.
From Addis.
I arrived in Addis and first day I slept at Haile Grand Hotel, which is Haile Gebrselassie hotel.
Wow, the legend himself.
The legend himself.
Tell me you had a run with him.
This is what we're getting to. He supervises the hotel himself.
He ought to. I mean,
so there's workers, it's teeming with workers, but he supervises the hotel himself. And Addis is a huge capital, so people are always arriving. So in the evening, I see the gentleman casually strolling out for a leisurely run. And I say to myself, this is my chance.
To run with
I go up, I put on my hawkers, and I chase the man. The altitude in Addis is not the kind of altitude to be chasing a global champion.
Raymond, I wouldn't try to chase Haile Gebrselassie even at sea level. I mean, forget about being at high altitude.
Yes.
But tell me you caught up with him.
I didn't catch up with him. I didn't. I saw him for all of 10 minutes because I just saw him once take the main street. And then when he took the turn at the end of the main street, I didn't see him again.
Well, you did.
But I did my usual 10-kilometer run and came back.
Well, it's legendary to do a 10-kilometer run in Addis. That's something I would love to do.
Yeah, you can't do that in Kampala. Okay, you can run in Kampala, but not with the same air quality.
Well, I had a run on Tuesday evening in no less Kololo. That's where I would want to get. That's the most sane of places. But I'll tell you what, it's despicable. And that's why I'm asking myself, with these people that are clamoring to lead the city as mayors, as councillors, as whatnot, and even members of parliament, let's get down to the politics of Kampala as shaping up. We have a perennial mayor, Elias Lukwago, who's been there for donkey's years. And then we have a new kid on the block who's not a stranger to local governance. He was a mayor in Nakawa, rose to become member of parliament for Nakawa. Is it East or West? I forget quickly. And now he said, time to hang these other political engagements. Let me get down into doing real work in Kampala. And he's positioning himself as saying, look, I'm the reformist engineer that understands the physical infrastructure challenges that Kampala is going through. Lukwago is the guy that coming in to say, look, I know where the bodies are buried and I know how to make noise against all the different projects that are always coming to this city to break it down. Never mind that he has whined and talked about every problem, but none of his actions have stopped these things from going on.
Yeah.
So which way do we go?
So for me, it's important also, look, I watched Engineer Balimozo's opening speech to people of Kampala, yes. And I asked myself, okay, what has he been able to do with his constituency? Let's start there. Are there perfect walkways? Are there streetlights in his thing? Is the garbage cleaning any better there?
All I can say as a resident of Robert Mugabe Road
is
that it was during his tenure that Robert Mugabe Road became a macadamized boulevard.
Have nothing to do with him, in fact, because the GKMA project has nothing to do with him.
No, I'm not telling you as a guy on the ground that will attribute every good thing to a guy that possibly did nothing about it. What I know for a fact is done the usual politicking that every politician does, by ambulances that do not only transport sick people but also act as hearses. I've seen his ambulance carry dead bodies to burial places outside his constituency. He also launched some few garbage trucks and has been very hands-on in promotion of responsible disposition of garbage in different places. He's the kind of guy that will out of the blue just show up in a valley down in Chinawataka and engage with the locals into what is the Ugandan version of Umuganda. He's a hands-on guy, but I'm not so sure whether it is the hands-on per what it is or it's the usual clout chasing, like many politicians.
So for me,
but for me, he appears to be a more hands-on person in as far as doing actual work is concerned. The management of the city and the role of the mayor, considering the fact that it was reduced to
ceremonial.
being a ceremonial thing, like Museveni did say the other day that you were reducing you to wearing chains and looking like leashes of a dog.
Yeah, but there's still some power in there. And for me, the merit structure, let's not discuss the individuals because then we get blinded.
Absolutely.
The kind of merit structure you need to run the city. One, government doesn't control a lot of the land in the city. Most of this land is privately owned. And many of the dramatic things you'd want to see done in a city require some level of land ownership. Whether it's widening roads, you need land. So for example, in Wandegea there, you can't widen those roads unless you get consensus from the Mujib Kasules of this world because they are the landowners of that place.
And you think the Mujib Kasules, if they are presented with a proposal that
this is
the trust in government is
this is what I'm heading to, that the merit structure to lead the city has to be slightly different. Lukwago for a long time has been an opposition candidate, but also he's been the rebel candidate. People in the city have voted him as a pushback measure against the state.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is going away anytime soon.
Certainly not, even with Bwalimwezo. It's not that he's a state agent.
But also the thing that I don't see with Bwalimwezo, and this race, I can guarantee you, we can bet money now, this race is going to go down to, are you Muslim, are you not Muslim?
That has always been the question.
The landowners are Muslim. And their interests are largely represented by people who are Muslim. Mm-hmm. So that's going to go down to there. The second thing that it's going to go down to is on which side of the aisle will the businessmen fall? Mm-hmm. The businessmen who do business in Kampala. So you talk about people like J2 Investments who do the garbage cleaning. You talk about people like Ham who have the Nachivibo settlements. People like Drake Lubega who command the traders and the trade areas. Those are very vital components of the city.
You've not mentioned our good friend, the landlord of the city, Sudhir Ruparelli.
Of course, Sudhir Ruparelli.
Although
he on the other hand, yes.
To the local politics.
Not just embroiled in the local politics, but he has very few land titles that are borderline with government land. So very few times will you have to ask him for land to build a road or something like that. In any case, where he has property, he's even developed the curbsides of those property.
You're right.
Yeah. So that's the merit structure.
And that's the push that if all the other land owners or businessmen also did, to say that don't also wait for government to enforce the facade of your building to look good or to have at least some security light around your premises. If everyone did that, the collective sum would remove the yoke off the shoulders of the city administration.
Yeah, but it's going to, if I read it as a political moment, it's going to be a difficult election for Ronald Bwalimwezo to win. In fact, if he wins it, he will have transitioned this city into something that we haven't had before. The last time we saw something like this was Sevana Chisto, yes. But then he was moneybags because he had come from the insurance industry.
And he had quite a bit of property around the city.
He had property around the city, but he also had the backing and blessing of Buganda Kingdom, which I don't think Bwalimwezo has at the moment. So it's going to be a contest. But there are many teething concerns in the city. Air quality, for example. Is Bwalimwezo going to address that? Access to shared workspaces for young people, young creatives. Is Bwalimwezo going to address that?
Public spaces.
Or is Lukwago going to address that? Yes.
I mean, if you look at what's left of our public spaces, there's none whatsoever, including the constitutional square that just became a hangout ground for Marabu Stokes and for Aido police officers.
Yeah, and the thing around the Lord Mayor opposition not having power, I keep saying we don't interpret it right. It's true that executive power of the Lord Mayor was reduced, but the Lord Mayor can actually hamstring government a lot of times. One, he commands who goes on what committee inside KCCA. Two, he determines the business of KCCA through the business committee and the sitting of the council. Many times, the councillors he has are en masse behind him, except in this Ham matter. So you can hamstring, there are many ways to politically hamstring government to get to do what you want. And for me, that's, I think, the reason I have been unhappy with Erias Lukwago. He's done everything right in terms of trying to stop the corporate grabbing of the city. But when it comes down to the efficiency of the city, I still find like a lack of efficiency in the city.
Well, to be fair to him, like you said, he cannot run as a lone wolf. He has got to work closely with the councillors at City Hall and then the division councillors in the respective divisions. But Raymond, if you put the spotlight onto the quality of the councillors that we elect into those positions. Boy, oh boy, I sat in that council a couple of times and my heart still bleeds.
Yeah, so that's
it's a systemic problem across the country that you and I, who possibly have these ideas and have seen places like Addis and Kigali and would want to have the same for Kampala, are not standing up to the party to be counted and get voted into these offices where we are able to make a difference.
It's also agenda setting.
When we are appointed to some of these executive offices, we end up, as it happens, we start hiring relatives as janitors. And then
I don't want us to go down that path, sir. But I was also going to say, sometimes it's how wide you dream, how far do you dream when you get into a position like that. Kampala has had a division mayor called Dr. Ian Clark. He came in, and I think below him were like 6 or 7 councillors. For the Makindye area. The transformation in Makindye to build gullies, build gullies. Let's put curbs on the roadsides. Let's have street lights within Makindye. Makindye is the one that has street lights now. Let's have social programs that address the slum populations within those areas. That was the vision that he had. He had a long vision, sold it to the people, and then sort of worked with it to try and correct it. As a result, it cost him the next election.
Absolutely.
Because he tried to run for member of parliament, and the voters just said, no, we don't want this.
And that's something that pains me so much about Ugandans, that, you have a mayor like Ian Clark. And Raymond, you cannot dream about something you possibly have not had an idea of. Ian Clark comes from a place where he has seen functional cities. And so he felt, honestly, that he should do the same to the city he calls home, which is Kampala. But what do the Kampalans want? You saw what they voted next. Muryanyama, I think, as the mayor for Makindye. A guy who
Ibrahim Kasozi was the one that beat him for MP, though.
For MP, but I'm saying for mayor to replace Ian Clark. And like, I normally joke with my friends that a village child would not in their lifetime dream of eating a roast sausage because they've never seen it. The best they can dream is a boiled potato, or maize as you like to have it, boiled. So we are in that space where those who know what a sausage tastes like cannot stand up to the party to get elected into those positions, and even the systemic arrangement of our society would not appreciate them as leaders.
Again, this is for me, when you study metropoles around the world, normally what happens is that the ruling parties, because they use the metropoles as tax collection avenues, the ruling parties normally influence the politics. So in many metropoles, the mayor you get is not the mayor that the public would have wanted, but it's the mayor that the ruling party has forced.
But that's how now the KCCA Act comes into place to create the Office of Executive Director of KCCA and that whole bureaucracy around the City Hall, including having 2 ministers for Kampala.
But I would say that the quality of leaders that have occupied that offices after Jennifer Musisi, honestly, you can't write home anything. Jennifer was a reformer. Yes, she had a lot of contestation with Arias Lukwago, but a lot of her reforms were healthy reforms.
And she also had a good set of ministers. I mean, Betty Kamya had her head properly switched on. So did our friend Frank Tumwebaze. The current breed of Kampala ministers, sorry, but they live with no confidence.
And that's the problem. So that's when you dock the problem at the NRM, because the NRM, essentially, you're collecting 65% of your revenue from this city. Why don't you make the city work for the people that are in it? And once you solve those inefficiencies of the city, the productivity increases.
Absolutely.
I stay in the city, Kampala. I come to Kira to work here where we're recording the podcast. It takes me almost 1 hour to get here, and that distance is less than 7 kilometers. I could run here and I'll be here in 30 minutes. Why don't you make the city work? If I am, the less time I spend on the road, the more productive I become, the more taxes I give you. And I don't know why they don't make that mathematics.
I always opined, even when at City Hall, to say the NRM should never, not now at least, think that they are going to get political flowers from Kampala citizens. No.
It's also not an NRM problem globally.
I don't know.
Ruling parties are punished in the cities.
Exactly.
Yes.
But just make the city work deliberately. You can be unpopular, it doesn't matter, but get things working. If the Kampala knows that he has got good and effective mass transport, and not the border menace that we have as it is. If the Kampala resident knows that he has got up to the last meter to their home, a good road. If the Kampala resident knows that there is street lighting, the rest, bajakwe as they normally say, because then they know that the basics are there.
Yeah, but also like the mass transport issue, and I hope the mayors are listening, the people running for mayor are listening to this. Mass transport is not just the ability to move people from where they stay to where they are working, it's also an ability to organize populations within the city. If you say that a bus will take people from, say, Ntinda and dump them at Javas, it's a chance for you to tax Javas a little bit more because you're saying, we're bringing you a population of almost 300, 400 people every morning and dumping them at your doorstep. Some of those people are coming to your shop, so your revenue should be taxed slightly more.
Pass by there because that's the nearest thing.
Yes, and it's also a chance for you to reorganize the city and say, okay, we don't want large populations in these areas. We don't want this kind of population in this area. Simon, I was so hard,
But it will take
Addis,
it will take a very huge overhaul, even of our own personal characters. A taxi must stop where you are, not you to go to a bus stop.
But those reforms can actually be executed in under a year. I was in Addis before these reforms were instituted. I know how dysfunctional that city was. You look at Addis right now and you admire it. They now have buses the same way we wanted to have them. They don't have any of this border nonsense on their streets at all. They've widened their roads. Their main lanes are, I think, 8 lanes. And then in the feeders, it's 4-lane roads. Those are small things to do. They're really small things to do. It doesn't require shaking heaven and getting Jesus down.
You were telling me how the road tenure, the land tenure system here wouldn't allow for widening of roads. You ask yourself, between, for example, Chireka and Nakawa, there's enough space for the roads to be widened. What is there in the road reserves? Car bonds and Pakistani businessmen selling all sorts of crazy things by the roadside and all sorts of things. Do those also require to be compensated? Because that's already an available corridor. But the main artery into the city of Kampala from the main road that brings in all our imports from the port is a 2-lane road.
Yeah. I was having this conversation online with a friend called Pathy, he's an engineer, and Bernadette. Yes, Bernadette, who is the communications officer for the GKMA project. And I was telling her, you as the project, you may not coerce people who have land and who are holding on to it. You may not be able to coerce those people to give up that land holding. Publish their names. Just say, for us, we're ready to build this road, but this person has a land holding and they have gone to court, so we're waiting. Allow us, the citizens, to do our work. To do our work, because that's the only way you can get this reform, by pushing public pressure on some of these things.
But you see,
also, other times...
That brings us to what next we wanted to talk about.
No, but other times, I just want to finish this. Other times, it's creative problems. If you went to Hajj Nachivinge, decent man, I have sat across him many times and told him, look here, we want to collect all your land holdings and put them into an infrastructure bond and pay you the some equivalent in cash.
True.
We will give you maybe a coupon once every 6 months.
6 months, exactly.
Which is the equivalent of what these land holdings would have given you. But give us this land so that we're able to do public development. The Kasim I know, down on the heart, would do that. He might even sign it away for free.
Absolutely.
But no one has come to him with that idea to say, okay, the problem is we don't want to take your land. It's just that we want to get the value of the land.
And that comes down to the quality of leaders that we have, both at executive level and even political level. The people are able to think that way and go out of their way to actually crack those kind of deals without always looking back to plot one to see, okay, does the president allow? Would he allow? Like, we wouldn't bring it.
Other times you come to a guy like Simon Kasiate on Robert Mugabe Road and say, look here, we're going to name this Simon Kasiate Road and you'll get some royalties off of it.
Thank you, sir.
So we can say, okay, we widen the road, make it a tolled road. it will be a toll road for 10 years, and people who want to use the road will pay 1,200 shillings will go to the Simon Kasiate family for this long. Those unique solutions, then a person says, do I want to hold on to this Robert Mugabe Road title or actually get this coupon?
Absolutely.
They will move on. So that those creative solutions, I don't hear them in the campaigning. All I hear in the campaigning is, I am the engineer that's going to fix the city. I am the one that's going to stop the city from being taken away. And both of those are not attractive propositions.
A few months into my tenure at City Hall, I landed on a document that had the names of, there were 63, if I remember well, freehold titles in the Chinawataka Swamp. The Chinawataka Swamp is the catchment area for the following hills. Mbuya Hill, Chireka Hill, Chambogo Hill. Now, do you understand why whenever it rains, even a mere drizzle, you can barely cross over that Chambogo stretch on Ginger Road? Why? Because the Chinawataka Swamp has been so degraded. The rich people are attacking it from this direction, the poor people are attacking it from the other direction and building all sorts of shacks. But guess what? In there are 63 freehold titles, some of which are owned by no less than top clergymen in this country.
Yes, those are candidates of Tom Magambo.
I went out of my way to say, why don't we publish this list?
Yes,
bruh.
Those are candidates of Tom Magambo. Those are properly candidates of Tom Magambo, and he would be very happy to investigate, take them to court. I mean, some of these things, I don't know why we stress over them. You don't need reform over someone who has a freehold title in a swamp. That's a criminal act. Jail the person.
Talk about Tom Magambo. He sends you his regards. I had a conversation with him recently after seeing him put through a good lecture to a patriotic club at my
he's a good judge. I think he's carrying out a reform project at CID. He just needs to be supported, and people need to stay out of his way.
Well,
the quality of evidence that I have seen against people in the anti-corruption court has improved massively. Your friends, the ministers who are being charged for iron shits, the quality of evidence against them is so good. And it shows that someone was doing their job and they were doing it right. But also just the basic restructuring, pushing CID officers out of Chibuli, go into the villages and do work, reforming that place, putting a new coat of paint, new gates. These are things we shouldn't celebrate. They are basic, mundane things, but we must celebrate them because they don't happen.
Absolutely.
Often. They don't happen.
Can the same be said of the evidence against those that possibly are now before the anti-corruption court facing charges related to the Chitezi issue?
I think there will be a political interference in that case. But in all regards, the charge was negligence, and I think the evidence for the negligence is massive. It's really massive. There's an indication of negligence there.
I shall say no. But talking about the anti-corruption code, here comes the peculiar case of Professor Waswa Barunywa.
Yes.
And the cry and hue that is now coming through with now folks even tabling it before the floor of parliament and turning this whole thing into a tribal thing. Raymond, doesn't it frustrate you that on one hand, we are calling for a corruption-free society. We are calling for an orderly society where rules and laws must be respected. But the day your own a friend, Keith or Kim, is on the other side of the law, then it doesn't become so much about their ability to go and face the law and defend themselves against it or whatever they're accused of. But now we tribalize and vulgarize the whole process and call for lenience as opposed to allowing the law take its course. Doesn't that bother you?
It bothers me, and
I don't know whether it bothers you as much as it bothers me.
It does.
Listen,
it does.
Professor Barunywa I have a lot of respect for him. I mean, he taught me in class and all that. But if it is indeed true that these allegations against him merit, let him go defend himself against them.
Hire a good lawyer.
Defend yourself against them and get absolved through the court process. But to say he should not face a day in court because he's a Musoga or he's a professor should not go before courts of law, I think we're building a society of propagation. Then who should be in court?
What's to stop the Wanyankole from saying Birunji should also be released? Everyone will come and say, my kinsman needs to be released.
I saw some time back, a long time ago in my formative years in journalism, a truckload of people coming in from Rujumbura to ask the president to forgive a minister that had been accused of taking money from the Ministry of Health. The story is well known.
Yeah.
And that for me bothers me. That's why you go and break the law as an individual. But then when it comes to facing the sanctions of what you have broken, you want to involve your wider community. Is that fair?
I don't think it's fair. And I think I've said it on this podcast before. The approach to corruption will have to be unconventional. You will have to do like the day of the night of the long knives in Saudi Arabia, where you call people into a room and say, you're not leaving until you give us all the proceeds of corruptions that you have. That's the kind of unconventional method. Yes.
Here is a video.
And evidence, yes. Yes, but that's the kind of unconventional things you need to do, because people don't know that the night of the long knives in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman locked up uncles, cousins,
absolutely,
brothers,
yes,
brothers, friends he had been with for more than 30 years.
School, yes.
And he locked them up and said, look here, this is a process of corruption, you need to hand them back. And it jump-started the transformation process of Saudi Arabia. They are now going to host a World Cup. They have more than 4 cities. Some of these things we really...
in the Gulf, just down here, southwestern.
Yes.
Border of Uganda. That's down there. The moment the laser beam of corruption hits your the middle of your eye,
half the society says it's fine.
Your relatives stop taking your calls. No one can even be seen within 10 meters of your residence.
Yeah, but there should be social consequences to that. Yeah, there should be social. And for me, I've told my friends this. I normally do it for traffic violations. And I tell my friends, if you've been caught in a traffic violation, pay your fine. If you've been arrested for drink driving, I will come visit you in prison. I will not campaign for you to be released.
Yes.
I'll come visit you in prison so that you understand the lesson, that you know this is a powerful life learning moment, that you can't do this and get away with it.
Raymond.
Yes.
I was saying that we're seeing this unfortunate situation playing out that clearly indicates that we are not yet mature politically, in the sense that when you subject yourself to an electoral process and you do not win, take it in and then prepare yourself for better, but within the
sour grappers. They're really sour grappers.
The same political dispensation. Are they learning from the guy that lost one of those miserable losers in the 1980 election, who felt the election had been rigged against them and they took force of arms and...
Yeah, but you know, that's the crisis of sour grappers, is that... So I watched this show at UBC, Beyond the Headlines, where the Minister for ICT, Chris Bariomunsi, was saying, how could it be possible that in a region, someone got 700 votes and I got 0? That's statistically possible.
Absolutely.
It might be highly improbable, but it's statistically possible that 700 people decided you are not their candidate. And sometimes you need to, because the more you create independence, the easier it is for your opponents. If you have 2 of your strong people running, then you're dividing your vote and allowing for a third candidate to come through.
Yes.
And once a third candidate emerges, and they might even come up with a very small margin, they will defeat you.
Absolutely. That's how you end up getting leaders who were elected by really the minority, but they have the majority vote.
Exactly. But I've also been meaning to speak very broadly to the joint political consensus, and I hope that both Bobi Wine and the president listen to this. There is a crisis with the political establishment and political class that those gentlemen are leading. The crisis is many people don't show up to vote. Many people don't get. So the president is voted by about 5.6 million people.
Out of over 18 million
registered voters. Someone should sit down and ask themselves, why aren't people coming to vote?
That voter
it's good if you win the election. It's bad if you lose the election. But jointly, you should ask yourself, am I still a legitimate entity?
We should ask this question to the Electoral Commission. Right now, it's how many months to the next election? Less than 5?
Yes.
And do you feel any sense of serious civic education as far as...
But even if you did civic education, there is some lethargy that people have with the political establishment right now. That people don't think that the political establishment is the vehicle for change. And they're resorting to the non-traditional methods. So some people are saying, can the military get involved? Some people are saying, let's have private estates. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I've seen it in Nairobi. Many of my friends disengaged from the political establishment and built their own private estates. The cost of running those estates just keeps going high. So in Kira, where we are, for example, you've seen private estates starting to come up. I myself live in a private estate. The cost of running those estates is very high. it's cheaper for us to engage in the political process. And I hope that both gentlemen maybe can do a joint address to say, okay, our differences aside, can you guys come and be part of this political process?
Raymond, don't tempt me to call you a hopeless optimist.
Optimist. I was optimistic about a joint presidential debate. It happened. I'm also optimistic that these two candidates, despite their massive grievances against each other, are able to see that there is mutually assured destruction by not having people engaging in a process in which they think they are getting legitimacy from.
One thing is for sure, for as long as one or both of the candidates believe that when it's all said and done, they are the victors, the rest is background noise. And I don't think they really want to get involved in background noise now, as opposed to the end game of it.
So Simon, you're reading again. This is a fantastic change in circumstances. You had told us you are writing, but writing only for yourself. You refuse to release what you're writing. But we're happy you're reading.
Well, so the other day I was checking through my scrap of personal stuff in my home office, and I landed on this book that I actually signed off and bought in 2018, but had not opened a single page. And I said, my goodness, I have this full story of Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager, that I've not read. And it was a fully updated edition of his autobiography.
Yeah.
And I have always been a strong admirer of especially his ability to manage a club of young talent against his own personal peccadillos as an individual. He means a hot-tempered guy. Ferguson, I see me in Ferguson in many things, especially with regard to road rage, anger issues, and the absence of patience for mediocrity. And yet, many times I want posture as a leader to build talent, to get work done and all that. So I actually got this book really as a self-help read to speak to me, because at that time in 2018, I think I was heading a department in one of these government entities, and I needed to understand the qualities of a leader beyond an impulsive, highly emotional self that I am. And emotional swings from both extremes of the emotional spectrum. I sometimes have very deep empathy, or sometimes I really have
excessive.
Then I can be so kind, and then I can be...
You should pat yourself, take your flowers, because the department you are leading, I think the people that you led are still there and they're doing incredible work. You should be proud of that, at the very least.
Let me tell you, it's actually more than that. But I had two incredible hires of young men that I brought in generation. And I'm happy to inform you that both of them are heading their department in transmission and distribution, respectively.
Yes. So that's why I was telling you, you shouldn't beat yourself up too much. It's for KCC there, you should really beat yourself, because what were you doing? What was that?
What could I have done, Raymond, in the circumstances?
Or for your next appointment, we might ask, what is it you're going to be doing?
Oh, did you say for my next appointment?
Yes.
You know something I don't know?
Let's not break the eggs on this podcast, but we will be waiting to hear from Mr. Simon Kasiate on what happens next.
Well,
what are you doing for this weekend?
A friend of mine lost his dad, so I'm afraid I may have to go to Uganda for a burial. But my weekends are my weekends. I never really plan for what happens. I just go with the flow. I am that kind of person.
Please, I wanted to interest you in a mental health run on Sunday.
Anything for a run. Anything for a run. Telling me to run in stilettos and all sorts of crazy things.
No. There's a mental health run on Sunday, and I think the proceeds from the run are going towards the treatment of mental health patients. Oh, wow. And I think it starts in Kololo at Revive Arc Wellness Center. So I'm going to be doing that on Sunday. On Saturday, I think I have a friend getting married, so we're trying to fundraise for the wedding. So
let's put it this way, Raymond. Sunday runs, it depends on how Saturday night goes for me.
It doesn't. You can come straight from the bar and run, and then go back to your home.
Who mentioned the bar here?
Donna Katkunda normally comes straight from the bar to the run and goes,
Well, this weekend, I'm sure there's the 5th edition of the 4th floor kind of engagement gig that we normally have in Nigeria.
Yes.
Give it to those boys. They really know how to get all we old folks that are coming to the 5th floor getting a bit jiggy at least every so often. So I think from my funeral proceedings on Saturday, I may drop, but I don't know. Let's see how it goes. But for you,
I'm also leaving on Sunday, so that's also painful.
I know. So
I'm from Addis, but I'm leaving on Sunday for another city.
Well, I hope that we'll be able to catch ourselves to grab a coffee even while you're away virtually.
Yes, virtually. And I am crossing fingers for our guest. Yes, I'm crossing fingers. I've emailed, we've done everything. If all works out well, yes, it will happen.
For those of you who continue to listen to this podcast from wherever it is that you grab your podcasts, we are eternally grateful that you do so. But even more importantly, we appreciate your feedback and hit us on our different socials, wherever it is that you find us. Follow and comment. That helps us improve. But if for nothing else, also give you back the value for which you've spent the last 40 or so minutes listening to us. God bless. You may wish to say bye, Raymond.
Have a good day.